So, Revenant finally got the buff she deserved to make her an S tier character in Nightreign. Let's get into it. Now, the most recent changes in the most recent update aren't actually the thing that makes her one of the most powerful characters in Nightreign. The actual change that happened that made her S tier was her being able to start in the expedition with very strong spells. Now, some of them are obviously better than others. In fact, some of them you never want to use in your entire existence playing the Revenant. But some of them are genuinely S tier and will carry you in the whole expedition from start to end, in duos, trios, and even in solo. And in fact, if you was to get the perfect relic setup with the perfect weapon passives, your damage would look something like this.
What the fuck?
Now, of course, that is perfect world, perfect scenario, perfect relics, perfect everything. This build, even without the perfect scenario, is still insanely overpowered and it will carry you for the whole expedition. And the great thing about this build is there are a number of different ways you can run it. Now, obviously you have the improved bestial incantations. They will work. You have the physical attack power up plus whatever, plus 1, 2, 3, 4. They will also buff the build. And then of course you have improved incantations, 0, +1, and +2. Every single one of these relic effects will boost the damage of the Beast Claw. But obviously not only does it boost the damage of the Beast Claw, it will also boost the damage of any other bestial incantations. Now, there are a few things to know about the Beast Claw and what buffs it and what doesn't. Charge attacks will not buff the damage of this, so even if you're charging it, you need charged incantations, which I think honestly is really dumb. Any attack that is chargeable, charge attack should work, but you know, that's just what I think. Physical attack up will boost it, so if you get a physical attack up in the expedition, that will boost it. Melee attack up will not boost it. Now that obviously kind of makes sense because it's not a melee attack, but it does get boosted by physical damage. And then obviously any improved incantations will also boost the damage. And all of that is shown in these clips here. Essentially, physical boosts it, melee doesn't. All the incantation boosts will obviously boost it, and charge attacks do not boost it. Now, as for incantations, Godfrey's Icon will boost the charge damage by 18%, but bear in mind you will have to be charging it to get the most out of that. You get the Faith Canvas Talisman, which boosts incantations by 11%, and obviously you can also pick up the Ritual Sword Talisman, which will give you a 10% damage boost when you're at full HP. Outside of that, obviously Frank gives you a 10% damage boost when you call in Frank. Now, obviously, if you do call in Frank, you want to be hitting your ultimate ability to keep him alive longer, but they even know with the most recent changes in the most recent patch, Frank is actually an absolute tank now and will do his job a lot longer than he would before. And in fact, if the Revenant receives any more side passive buffs, she will probably be the best character in the game, at least for damage anyway. Mostly because she requires 0 RNG to make her a good character. Now, obviously you want weapon passives to make the incantation stronger, but right off the bat, with just standard relics like bestial incantation relics and maybe like, you know, a couple of incantation +1, +2s, you will be doing like 600-700 damage just off charging the Beast Claw. And of course, she is still a swishy character, but what really do you want? You can't have someone that can do like 2000 damage just off one L1 that requires like 10 FP to also be insanely tanky and be able to survive like, you know, big strong attacks. Now, obviously with one damage negation at full 32% or 40%, she's going to be able to survive most attacks. Even in depth 4 and depth 5, if you have damage negation at full, she's going to survive most attacks. With her summons also taking aggro and they actually take more than one shot now, it honestly makes her incredibly strong to have in a team. Now obviously there's still a question for solo because she is still going to be one of the main targets, and although her summons have been buffed, which we'll get into in a minute, they're not going to survive long enough for you to be able to take out a whole boss. Now obviously there is the 3 that you can switch between, but even then, most of the time they're not going to survive through a whole, you know, red boss towards the end of the day. But you know, you got to give and take. She is a very strong character with a low health ball, and she's very squishy. She has really low innate defenses, so you know, it's just something you have to play with. It's big risk for big reward. Now, as for the summon buffs, previously they would always have their scaling from level 1 to 15, but in the latest patch they now have scalings for depth 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now as for the scalings, they're honestly a little bit cheap from Software. Essentially they're just giving the same scalings all around. So yeah, if we look in the data files and we follow suit that Helen's at the beginning, then Frederick, not Frank, and then Sebastian, you'll see that they, depth 1, they get a 12.5% damage negation, and then depth 1, they also get a 12.5% damage boost. Now, this is the exact same for all the other summons, and at depth 5, they get essentially a 44%-ish damage negation, and then a 58% damage boost by depth 5. As for the damage negation and attack scaling for each depth, I'll put them on screen somewhere for your viewing pleasure, because I appreciate not everyone's in depth 1 and not everyone's in depth 5. So yo gamers, that is pretty much all there is to say about the build. Revenant is now possibly the strongest Nightfarer to have in a team, because she just does pure raw damage with little RNG. Now, obviously, to make her a little better, you want to try and get bestial incantations and either +2 incantations. I'm not sure if that's legal. Bestial incantations and physical attack up, whatever, is legal. So, if you see people running that, it is a legal setup. I'm not sure about the incantations one. So yeah, obviously defeating enemies fills up the art gauge. That is a must, because every time you get to a boss fight, realistically, you want to be able to drop Fred, and then you want to be able to use your ult to keep him alive for as long as possible. Obviously, if you've got power up when fighting amongst family, you get a 10% damage boost from Fred to make it even stronger. So yeah, that is pretty much all I got to say about the Bean. She is now finally a very viable character to run. I mean, I even play her in depth 4 and depth 5, so she's definitely a viable character to run. Obviously, you still need damage negation because she's squishy, unless you've got massive balls and just, don't get hit. But yeah, gamers, let me know your thoughts on the Revenant now. Let me know if you, stopped playing it because she wasn't viable. Let me know if you picked her back up and you're now maining her again, because I have been playing a lot of the Revenant lately, and I will continue to do so. And honestly, in an era where essentially skill builds are just carrying people through the game, it's nice to actually pick up a character that requires a little bit of, I don't know, brain thought, I guess we'll use. I don't want to offend everyone who runs the skill build and mains a skill build, but casters generally require a little more thought into the process of the build. So yeah, it's nice to actually play a character that isn't just spamming L2. We're spamming R1 instead, or L1. As always, gamers, stay safe, catch you on the next one. Big love, peace.